My brothers and sisters of Kenya, I greet you from Burkina Faso with revolutionary solidarity and profound respect for your struggle. I am Ibrahim Taure, and I speak to you today not as a foreign leader passing judgment, but as an African brother who has walked the same path of resistance against neo-colonial oppression that you now tread. I have watched with great interest the events unfolding in your beloved nation, and I must tell you with absolute clarity and conviction that what is happening to Edwin Sifuna and those standing with him is not merely a party squabble or political theater. This is a battle for the soul of Kenya, a fight between those who would sell your future for personal comfort and those willing to sacrifice everything to preserve the dignity and sovereignty of your people. When I listened to Secretary General Sifuna's statement, when I heard the passion and principle in his voice, I recognized immediately the spirit of a true Pan-Africanist, a genuine servant of the people. This is a man who has refused to bend his knee to power, who has chosen the hard path of resistance over the comfortable cushions of collaboration. My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something from our experience here in Burkina Faso. We too faced leaders who claimed to represent the people while dining at the tables of our oppressors. We too watched as our political parties became mere extensions of foreign interests and local comprador capitalists. We too heard beautiful speeches about democracy while witnessing the systematic betrayal of revolutionary ideals. And we said enough. The people of Burkina Faso said enough, and we reclaimed our sovereignty, our dignity, our future. Edwin Sifuna stands accused of one crime, and one crime only. He refuses to support President William Ruto's re-election. Think about this carefully, my Kenyan brothers and sisters. They do not accuse him of stealing from the party. They do not accuse him of betraying party secrets. They do not accuse him of incompetence in his duties. For 9 years, nearly a decade, he served as Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement, the longest anyone has held that position. For 9 years, he worked at the feet of the great Raila Odinga, learning, serving, building the party structures, defending the constitution. And in all those 9 years, Raila Odinga, that giant of Kenyan politics, that fighter for social justice, never once publicly rebuked him, never once questioned his dedication, never once doubted his loyalty to the movement. But now, just 4 months after Raila Odinga's death, suddenly Sifuna must be removed. Suddenly he is dangerous. Suddenly he is a problem. Why? Because he dares to say that Kenya cannot afford 5 more years of what he calls expensive, divisive, incompetent, and disastrous misadventure. Because he refuses to accept that kleptocracy, the rule of thieves, should be given a second chance by the people. My brothers and sisters, this tells you everything you need to know. When a leader is punished not for corruption but for principle, not for theft but for truth-telling, not for incompetence but for independence of mind, you know that something profoundly wrong is happening in your political house. Let me speak plainly about what I see happening in Kenya, because we have experienced this same pattern across Africa. President Ruto's government, from what Sifuna and his comrade describe, is working systematically to capture the opposition, to turn the Orange Democratic Movement from a people's party into what they call an appendage of State House. This is the oldest trick in the neo-colonial playbook. You cannot openly crush opposition in modern times without international condemnation, so instead you corrupt it from within. You offer positions, you promise resources, you dangle ministerial appointments, you whisper about the benefits of cooperation, and slowly, gradually, the party that once spoke for the voiceless becomes just another voice for the powerful. Sifuna spoke of meetings at State House, of party leaders consulting not with the grassroots membership, but with the president they are supposed to oppose. He mentioned how they agreed in good faith to postpone a crucial National Executive Committee meeting, to give mediation a chance, to seek consensus and unity. But what happened? Those same leaders went that very night to State House to consult with William Ruto, not to the people, not to party elders, not to the membership, but to the president. And then they proceeded with their meeting in Mombasa anyway, removing Sifuna without due process, without hearing, without even the basic courtesy of informing him of charges against him. This is not politics, my brothers and sisters. This is a coup. This is a hostile takeover financed and directed from the corridors of power. The deputy party leader spoke truth when he said ODM is being remote controlled from State House. Think about what this means for your democracy. If the ruling party and the opposition party both answer to the same master, where does that leave you, the people? If both sides of your political equation are controlled by the same interests, what choice do you really have at the ballot box? This is the illusion of democracy, the theater of choice without substance, the performance of politics without power for the people. We have seen this across Africa. We have lived this nightmare, and I am here to tell you that it leads only to deeper exploitation, greater suffering, and the complete surrender of your national sovereignty. When Sifuna says that Raila Odinga must be turning in his grave, I believe him absolutely. 4 months. Just 4 months after the death of this giant, this man who spent his entire life fighting for social justice, for accountable leadership, for the dignity of ordinary Kenyans, and already his party is being turned into a tool of the very forces he spent his life resisting. Raila Odinga went to prison for this country. He was tortured for democracy. He sacrificed personal comfort for principle. And now, barely cold in his grave, those who claim to honor his memory are rushing to make deals with the government, to silence dissent within the party, to remove anyone who dares to maintain the revolutionary fire that Raila himself lit. Sifuna mentioned that even before Raila's death, he opposed the party's alliance with Ruto, and Raila understood his reasons and accommodated them. This is crucial. Even when Raila made political calculations, struck tactical alliances, he never demanded that everyone in the party surrender their conscience, abandon their principles, or stop speaking truth. He built a movement that could contain different views, that could debate strategy while maintaining unity of purpose. But these people who now claim to lead ODM, they cannot tolerate even one voice of dissent. They must have absolute compliance, total submission, complete silence in the face of injustice. This is not the way of Raila Odinga. This is the way of dictators and puppets. My brothers and sisters, I want to address something that Sifuna said which resonated deeply with me. He said this is not about positions but about principle. In Burkina Faso, when we took power, we faced the same accusations. People said we were ambitious young soldiers seeking positions, but we proved them wrong by our actions. We cut presidential salaries. We refused luxury. We redirected resources to the people. We showed that we were not interested in the trappings of power, but in the transformation of society. When I look at Sifuna and these leaders standing with him, I see the same spirit. They are not fighting to grab power for themselves. They are fighting to preserve the soul of their movement, to protect the legacy of their leader, to ensure that ODM remains what it was always meant to be, a vehicle for the aspirations of ordinary Kenyans, not a ladder for the ambitions of opportunists. Governor Eringo spoke powerfully about the spirit of Raila Odinga, about how ODM is a people's movement, for the people and by the people. He challenged those claiming to lead the party to go to the people, knowing full well they cannot because they have lost touch with the grassroots. This is exactly what happened in Burkina Faso before our revolution. Our leaders stopped going to the villages. They stopped listening to farmers and workers. They preferred air-conditioned offices and international conferences. They spoke more to Western ambassadors than to their own citizens. And gradually, inevitably, they lost legitimacy. When we called the people to action, millions responded because they knew we spoke their language, understood their suffering, and shared their dreams. The fact that Sifuna and his comrades are immediately taking their message to the grassroots, starting in Kitangala, then moving to other areas, tells you everything. They are not hiding behind legal technicalities or procedural maneuvers. They are going directly to the people because they know that is where true power resides. This is the difference between authentic leaders and political careerists. Authentic leaders draw strength from the people. Political careerists draw power from proximity to those already in power. Sifuna draws his courage from the millions of Kenyans who are suffering under economic hardship, who face unemployment, who struggle with the high cost of living, who dream of a better Kenya. Those who removed him draw their authority from meetings at State House and gazette notices issued in violation of their own party constitution. Let me address the allegations that have been made against Sifuna. These claims of extortion and confusion of party position with personal opinion. My brothers and sisters, this is standard practice for those who cannot defeat you on ideas and must therefore destroy you through character assassination. In Burkina Faso, when we began to challenge French neocolonialism, suddenly we were called terrorists, extremists, unstable military adventurers. When we expelled French ambassadors and demanded respect for our sovereignty, suddenly international media discovered we were dictators. When we built schools and health centers instead of luxury villas, suddenly we were accused of economic mismanagement. The pattern is always the same. When you cannot refute someone's arguments, you attack their character. When you cannot match their integrity, you manufacture scandals. Sifuna has said, bring the evidence. Let us meet in court. Let the people judge. This is the response of someone with nothing to hide. If he had truly extorted governors, if he had truly abused his position, would he be demanding public scrutiny? Would he be inviting legal examination? Would he be going to the grassroots to face the people? No. He would be hiding, deflecting, seeking private settlements. But instead he stands in public, before cameras, before the nation, and says, examine my record, judge my service, investigate every claim. This is the confidence of innocence, the boldness of integrity, the fearlessness of someone whose conscience is clear. One of the members of parliament spoke about being removed as deputy organizing secretary via WhatsApp message before the National Executive Committee even met to discuss it. Think about the contempt this shows for democratic process, for party structures, for basic respect. You remove an elected official through a text message. You don't convene proper meetings. You don't follow constitutional procedures. You don't provide fair hearing. This is the mentality of authoritarianism, the arrogance of those who believe power gives them the right to trample on rules and regulations. And yet these are the same people who took sacred oaths to uphold and protect the party constitution. The same constitution they now violate without shame, without hesitation, without remorse. My Kenyan brothers and sisters, I want to tell you why Edwin Sifuna is good for Kenya, why his resistance matters, why you must stand with him in this struggle. First, because he represents the voice of conscience in Kenyan politics, in a time when many are silent, when many are compromising, when many are making calculations about their personal futures. Sifuna stands up and says no. No to collaboration with what he believes is a disastrous government. No to turning ODM into a tool of the ruling party. No to abandoning the principles that Raila Odinga died defending. This voice of conscience, this willingness to stand alone if necessary, this is what keeps democracy alive. When everyone goes along to get along, when everyone bends to power, when everyone prioritizes personal survival over national interest, democracy dies not with a bang but with a whimper. Second, because Sifuna understands that political parties must remain independent institutions, not extensions of state power. Democracy requires robust opposition, genuine alternatives, real choices for the people. If ODM becomes just another wing of the ruling establishment, Kenya loses something precious and irreplaceable. The two-party system, the healthy competition of ideas, the accountability that comes from knowing you might lose power to a genuine alternative, all of this depends on opposition parties remaining true to their identity and purpose. Sifuna is fighting to preserve this institutional independence, and in doing so he is fighting for the health of Kenyan democracy itself. Third, because he speaks for the forgotten, the marginalized, the suffering masses of Kenya. When he talks about fighting against high cost of living, about demanding jobs for youth, about standing with the downtrodden, these are not empty slogans. This is the core of what progressive politics should be about. Not endless debates about positions and procedures, but concrete commitment to improving the lives of ordinary people. The fact that he is willing to lose his position rather than abandon these commitments tells you where his heart truly lies. Fourth, because Sifuna represents a new generation of African leadership that refuses to repeat the mistakes of the past. He learned at the feet of Raila Odinga. Yes, but he is not simply imitating or worshipping. He is thinking critically, acting independently, applying principles to new circumstances. When Raila made certain political calculations, Sifuna respected his right to do so while maintaining his own position. This is maturity. This is growth. This is how movements evolve and renew themselves. Not through blind obedience, but through principled dialogue and mutual respect. My brothers and sisters, the war that has been declared in ODM is not just about one party or one man. It is about the future direction of Kenya. Will you be a country where opposition is tolerated only if it is toothless? Will you be a nation where political parties are merely different flavors of the same elite consensus? Will you accept a democracy in form but dictatorship in substance? Or will you demand genuine alternatives, real choices, authentic representation of your interests and aspirations? These are the questions that Sifuna's struggle forces you to confront. I stand with Edwin Sifuna because I recognize in him the same spirit that drove us in Burkina Faso to say enough to neo-colonial exploitation. And I stand with him because his fight is not just for ODM, but for the principle that African political parties must serve African people, not foreign interests or local comprador classes. I stand with him because he has shown courage when courage was costly, integrity when compromise was profitable, and principle when opportunism was easier. These are the qualities we need in African leadership, and these are the qualities we must defend and celebrate wherever we find them. To the people of Kenya I say this: Judge Edwin Sifuna, not by the accusations of his enemies, but by the testimony of his record. 9 years of service, building party structures, defending the constitution, standing with Raila Odinga through victories and defeats. Judge him by his willingness to face you directly, to go to the grassroots, to submit to the court of public opinion. Judge him by the character of those who stand with him. These members of parliament and governors and senators who risk their own positions to defend principle. And judge him most of all by the ferocity of the attacks against him, for they would not fight so hard to remove him if he were not a genuine threat to their plans. The struggle for ODM is the struggle for Kenya. The fight to preserve the party's independence is the fight to preserve your democracy. The battle to honor Raila Odinga's legacy is the battle to ensure that his sacrifices were not in vain. Edwin Sifuna is good not because he is perfect, but because he is on the right side of this fight. He is good not because he never makes mistakes, but because when faced with the choice between comfort and conscience, he chose conscience. He is good not because everyone agrees with him, but because he has the courage to stand for what he believes, even when standing is costly. My final word to you, people of Kenya, stay vigilant, stay engaged, stay committed to the struggle for a fair, just, and democratic nation. Support those who support you. Stand with those who stand for principle. And remember always that your liberation, your prosperity, your future depends not on the mercy of those in power, but on your own collective action, your own political consciousness, your own willingness to fight for what is rightfully yours. Edwin Sifuna has shown he is willing to fight. The question now is whether you will fight alongside him. The answer to that question will determine not just the fate of ODM, but the future of Kenya itself. A luta continua. The struggle continues.